What's up guys, Mike here, and with the departure of Kevin Durant to the Golden State Warriors, many have decided that Russell Westbrook is the favorite to win the 2017 MVP. Now the reasoning behind this is pretty simple. Russell Westbrook is a crazy person, and I mean that in the best way possible. Because Russ plays the game of basketball with a passion and ferocity that no one can match. And after watching videos like this,
how you feel about Durant, man?
It seems like the man definitely holds a grudge, which means this season Russ is going to be motivated to take his game to an even greater level, which is the reason why he's currently the frontrunner in the Vegas MVP odds. But here's the thing, the MVP award does not always go to the best player in a single season or even the player who puts up the best stats. No, history has shown us that the MVP award goes to the most valuable player on a team that finished first or second in their conference. Look, before all the haters flock to the comments, I have nothing against Russell Westbrook. In fact, I'm a fan of him. I think he's one of the best players in the NBA, and I think he might put up the best stats this season. But the last player to win the MVP and finish on a team that did not end up first or second in their conference standings was Michael Jordan in the 1988 season. That was 28 years ago, which means that the winner of the 2017 MVP will almost definitely play for a team that finishes first or second in their conference, which also means that Russell Westbrook will almost definitely not be the MVP because I just don't think his team will win enough games. Let's be honest for a second, based on everything I just showed you, do you really think Russ has a chance to win the MVP if the Thunder win 48 or 50 games? Probably not, right? So if not Westbrook, then who? Well, let's take a look at the 4 best candidates and together we'll make a decision. And to be clear, we're going in order of least likely to most likely. And before we get going guys, I am happy to say that this video is sponsored by SeatGeek. Now SeatGeek is an app that takes all of the best ticket prices from around the internet and puts them all in one place for you to get the best deal. And it's easy to see what the best deal is because SeatGeek scores every ticket from 1 to 100 based on how good a deal that ticket's price is. On top of that, the app also shows you the view from whatever ticket you might buy, so you can kind of preview the tickets before you buy them, which is pretty cool. So if you want the best quality tickets for the cheapest prices, download SeatGeek and make sure to use the promo code 2KMike for $20 back on your first order. Listen guys, I use the app. I wouldn't endorse them if I didn't. And with that, let's look at the players who I think have the best chance to win the MVP this season. Number 4, Paul George. In terms of the 2016 NBA season, Paul George and the Indiana Pacers are really the wild card for the entire year. I mean, let's just look at the facts. Last season, Paul George averaged 23.1 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, and 4.1 assists per game while leading the Pacers to a competitive first-round series against the Toronto Raptors. In that 7-game series, George averaged 27.3 points per game, 7.6 rebounds per game, and 4.3 assists per game. In other words, he put up superstar numbers and almost led his team to an upset over the second-seeded team in the Eastern Conference, which might just be an indication for a potential MVP leap in the 2017 season. Because for starters, Paul George will be 26 in 2016. He's coming off a year in which he returned from a year-long injury, and this season, he is beginning what should be his prime as an NBA superstar. So after a healthy year of potential improvement, PG-13 should begin this year at the top of his playing abilities. And I think by the end of the season, he will be the unanimous second-best player in the Eastern Conference. Now, in terms of his team, the Indiana Pacers begin the 2017 season with a much improved roster. While the change from George Hill to Jeff Teague may be a wash, the rest of the roster is full of talent. They brought in Thad Young, who is very underrated and a player that I love. They signed Al Jefferson, who hopefully they're planning on using off the bench. Monte gives them scoring at the 2. Miles Turner looks like he might be an all-star one day. Like I said, I think this team is the ultimate wild card this season. So I think their ceiling is second place in the Eastern Conference. If that's the case, I think Paul George captures the attention of NBA fans everywhere, and I could see him as a real MVP candidate for this season. Number 3, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. Last year, the Warriors finished the regular season with a 73-9 record, and Steph Curry was named the NBA's MVP. This year, Golden State adds a former MVP to their already loaded roster, and for some reason, neither Steph or Kevin Durant is favorited as the MVP for this year. But the reason for this is simple. While the NBA MVP is clearly about wins, stats, and a player's impact on the league, it's also about the story. The voters for the NBA awards are not robots. They love to see a player create a great storyline. The ability to create a great story can sway voters from choosing the best player of a specific year to instead choosing the best story from a single year. We have a great recent example of this, as many have looked at Derrick Rose's 2011 NBA MVP, where he led the Bulls to the top record in the East, as a time where the media got swept up in a story and chose to ignore LeBron James, the man who put up the best numbers on a great team that year. In particular, LeBron's 2011 MVP MVP snub is interesting because 2011 was the first season that LeBron played for the Heat, or in the eyes of MVP voters, it was the year after he left his hometown team to join a stacked super team. Remind you of anyone? Seriously, let's take a look at the numbers that Derrick Rose and LeBron James put up for the 2011 season. As you can see, LeBron had a better year, but the voters went with Rose. Now, part of the reason this happened is that Rose did have the better story, but the 2011 season is also a solid case study for another phenomenon that award voters suffer from, and that is voter fatigue. To put it simply, the more times a player wins the MVP award, the less likely he is to win the MVP award the next season. For whatever reason, voters like to choose new players as their MVP for the season, and there are various examples of this in basketball history. Now, I've already mentioned Derrick Rose over LeBron, but let's take a look at Michael Jordan. Many have said that the MVP wins of Charles Barkley and Karl Malone in the 93 and 97 season should have gone to Jordan, but the voters were simply tired of voting Jordan in as the MVP year after year. Which, bringing this back to Golden State, is a horrible sign for Stephen Curry. Steph has won the last 2 MVPs in NBA history, and I think voters are going to be very hesitant to vote him in as just one of 3 other players to ever win the MVP award 3 times in a row. To be clear, the last player to win 3 straight MVPs was Larry Bird in the 1980s, so Steph would have to put up unreal numbers to earn the same honor, which leaves us with Kevin Durant. Now, every season that Durant has been healthy in the last few years, he's been an MVP candidate, and with the Warriors, his team will certainly put up enough wins to secure his place in MVP contention. But will voters want to choose the man who left OKC to go to a team who just last season set the record for wins in a single year in NBA history? As I showed you before, the media ignored LeBron in 2011 when he put up MVP type numbers because he was seen as a villain, and I think they'll do the same to Kevin Durant in 2017. Again, these aren't robots. History has shown us that these are humans choosing the best story for a single season. If the voters chose Steph this year, they'd be making him the first player to win 3 straight MVPs since Larry Bird, which means they'd be giving him an honor that Michael Jordan and LeBron James have not accomplished. If they chose Durant, they'd be rewarding a player for jumping ship to the best team in the NBA. So I think it's doubtful that either Steph or KD wins the MVP this season, unless something crazy happens and the Warriors win 74 or 75 games and they completely dominate the league. But for the sake of parity, we're gonna say that's not gonna happen. Number 2. LeBron James. The 2016 NBA Finals were huge for LeBron James' legacy. Heading into the championship matchup with Golden State, LeBron was at risk of losing 5 of the 7 finals matchups he had ever appeared in. And then, against all odds, he put the city of Cleveland on his back and won the 2016 NBA championship. But here's the thing, since LeBron won the championship, his offseason has been very telling of his mindset for the rest of his career. In an interview with Sports Illustrated, LeBron was quoted as saying, "My motivation is this ghost I'm chasing. The ghost played in Chicago." Now, of course, this ghost is the previous career of Michael Jordan, the man who almost everyone declares is the best player to ever play the game of basketball. Jordan finished his career with 6 championships and 5 MVPs, while at this stage in his career, LeBron has only 3 championships and 4 MVPs, which means that if LeBron is really chasing the ghost that Michael Jordan left behind, he should be trying to beat the numbers that Michael Jordan once set. Well, with the addition of Kevin Durant to Golden State, it seems unlikely that LeBron will win the 2017 NBA championship. To be clear, I'm not counting LeBron out. He's the greatest basketball player I have ever watched in real time because I was too young to fully appreciate Michael Jordan. But if Golden State stays healthy this year, they have to be heavy championship favorites, which means that if LeBron really wants to chip away at Jordan's legacy as the greatest player of all time, he should look to match Jordan's 5 MVP awards this season. And if you think about it, this really is the perfect year for LeBron to play out of his mind and take home the MVP trophy. For starters, his team will undoubtedly finish as either the first or second team in the Eastern Conference this season, so he already has that checked off. But looking deeper into this year, we have to consider LeBron's age. In the 2017 season, LeBron will turn 32 years old. We don't want to accept it, but the man is slowly sliding past the prime of his career. Now, I have no doubt that LeBron will churn out all-star type numbers until he eventually decides to retire, but at 32, this may be the last season where his body is able to produce MVP type numbers for a full season. Now, in his last 2 seasons with Cleveland, LeBron has put up all league type numbers, but many have said he has coasted. He's been saving himself for the playoffs, saving himself for another chance at a ring. But remember, the man did play 76 games last year, so it's not like he spent the year resting somewhere on a beach. And I think this season, with the storyline set as the year of the Golden State Warriors, LeBron might just take off his training wheels for the regular season and go off. This could be his final year to win the MVP, MVP, and looking at how voters perceive things, it really would be the perfect storyline. In 2016, LeBron takes down the heavily favored Warriors, and then in 2017, despite Golden State adding Kevin Durant, LeBron plays out of his mind, puts up absurd stats, and takes home his 5th MVP, tying Michael Jordan on the all-time MVP leaderboard. Like he said, LeBron is chasing Michael Jordan's ghost, and in this season, I think he has a real chance to catch him at least in one category. And number 1, Kawhi Leonard. And so we've come to the part of the video where I must remind you of all of the faults of the other MVP candidates. Westbrook might not win enough games, the media might hate Durant and Curry enough to not vote for them, LeBron might coast during the regular season to save his body in pursuit of his 4th championship ring. All of these stars have fatal flaws that might derail their MVP hopes. And then we have Kawhi Leonard, or should we call him the man who is the perfect candidate to win the 2017 NBA MVP? Because when you think about it, Kawhi really has everything going for him. In terms of wins, it's very likely that the San Antonio Spurs will again finish 2nd in the Western Conference this season. Last season, the Spurs finished with 67 wins and were a whole 12 games ahead of the 3rd-seeded Thunder. So despite the loss of Tim Duncan, I think it's safe to say that San Antonio is the favorite to finish 2nd in the West. And in terms of stats, it looks like this might be the year that Kawhi finally puts up MVP-type numbers. Last year, Kawhi finished the season averaging 21.2 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, 2.6 assists per game, and was named to the first-team All-NBA and was the Defensive Player of the Year. On top of this, Kawhi was 2nd in the entire league in MVP votes, finishing 2nd only to Steph, who, to be fair, secured every first-place vote in the entire process. But here's the thing, when considering Kawhi as the frontrunner to win the 2017 MVP, you need to look at his progression as a player. From the time he entered the league as a 20-year-old rookie, Kawhi has made dramatic improvements each and every season. In the last 3 years alone, he went from a 12.8 point per game average in 2014 to a 16.5 average in 2015 to averaging 21.2 points per game in the 2016 season. Much of this can be attributed to his huge increase in his three-point shooting ability. In 2016, Kawhi shot 44% from the three-point line and finished 4th in the entire NBA in three-point percentage. This knockdown jumper, ridiculous wingspan, and elite athletic ability have turned Kawhi into a legitimate NBA superstar, which begs the question, why is Kawhi not getting more MVP buzz for the 2017 season? Just looking at his overall progression as a player, it seems that Kawhi is the perfect candidate to take the leap and become the MVP frontrunner this year. As he has proven in the last 3 years, Kawhi is capable of coming back from an NBA offseason with a dramatically improved offensive game. Combine this with the fact that he is the back-to-back winner of the Defensive Player of the Year award, something that no wing player has accomplished since Sidney Moncrief in 1984, and it appears that Kawhi has all of the tools to finish as the top player in 2017. But still, this offseason, all we've been hearing is that Russell Westbrook is the MVP favorite. Maybe it's because he doesn't show a lot of emotion. Maybe it's because the Spurs aren't one of the most exciting teams in this season. Whatever the reason, when looking at NBA history and the progression of Kawhi Leonard as a player, if I was a betting man, I would choose the quiet superstar to defy everyone and win his first ever MVP. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you see where I'm coming from and don't think this is an attack on Russell Westbrook. Again, I love Westbrook, I just don't think his team is good enough this season. And other than that, guys, if you are new to this channel, this is a basketball channel, so if you love basketball, I hope you subscribe. I make basketball videos like this. I look at what-if scenarios, I look at basketball history, I look at basketball conspiracies. Basically, if it's involved with basketball, I cover it, and if you love basketball, I'd really love for you to subscribe. And to my current subscribers, thank you guys so much for supporting me. Thank you for everything. I will say it every single video. You guys mean the world to me, and I couldn't do this without you. And as always, my dudes, have an awesome day, and cue that music.